There you go. Isn't it amazing how just 1 week off and you feel slightly rusty, Mandeep, don't you? Isn't that amazing? So, a very, very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I am Ruth Taylor. I'm a nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor and also a registered nurse and a health and wellness coach. Very much love inviting you to come to our webinars each week as much as we can on a Monday. And these are 100% here to support you on your weight loss journey. Whether you're on a medication or not, we very much enjoy having you here. And really, it's an opportunity for you to bring your questions along. So if you have brought any questions, do pop them if you can find it into the Q&A box. This helps us to understand which questions are most popular because we now use an upvoting mechanism. We have Ramdeep. No, we've got Raman here who is here helping us in the background. Sorry, Raman, don't know what's going on with my brain. And we'll share any links with you. And if you do have questions, then please do pop them in the Q&A box. So do say hello in the chat box. We've not seen you for a couple of weeks, so it's really lovely to have you here. I'm based down in Hampshire and we've still got sunshine. We had a little bit of grey this morning, but it hasn't materialised to rain, which I'm slightly disappointed at. Hope everybody is safe and well. It's very, very hot, isn't it? Hi, Tracy. Hi, Cheryl, and hi, Rose. Really good to have you joining us. Hi to Sue from Hampshire, me also in Hampshire. Hi, Julian in Hampshire. Hi to Pamela from Bristol and Caroline in Cambridge. Very lovely to have everyone here. Great to have you. And Mandeep, do say hello. And great to hear there's some rain in Cornwall.
Hi everyone, my name is Mandeep and I'm a pharmacist and also a weight loss service lead here at Boots Online Doctor. So yeah, nice to see all of you. I can see we've got quite a lot of people from up and down the country, which is nice.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? So very much so. So great. Let's move on. So today we are going to be talking all about how to eat. But first, let's have a quick accountability check-in. So on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being I'm pretty doing pretty well, I'm feeling pretty happy with myself. I'm staying on track to 0. I've had quite a few setbacks over the last week or so. Maybe I would put myself slap bang on in the middle there. Some good days, some not so good days. I was off on holiday last week, so you have to confess, ice cream crept in. So good to hear from you. 5 from Elaine, a 10. Well done to Neela, a 10 for you. Yeah, it's just really nice. And if there's anything that you found out for yourselves over the last week, any awarenesses you found, anything you found for yourself that's really helping with your motivation, or that is something that trips you up, please feel free to share because you're not just going to learn from us, you're going to learn from one another as well. And you're here to support everyone, I would say, sort of like an opportunity just to pass any top tips. Great, we've got some really high numbers coming through, haven't we? So well done to those who are up there. And don't feel bad for the ones who are in the middle. It's absolutely fine. If you've only just started, Karen, what's your motivation? Are you on a 10 or are you a little bit nervous and not too sure where to go with all of this? It's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong here, is there? Really isn't. Mandeep, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you, Ruth, because I've also been on annual leave, and I think with the children being off on summer holidays, it tends to derail your routine, doesn't it? So yeah, I think I'm probably in the middle as well, like a lot of our
Yeah.
participants.
And actually you're here. So well done for being here. Like your motivation is still there.
Yeah.
So we can all have those weeks where we're cruising along on a 5. It happens. That is called life. And it's really important to know that life happens. Well done to the person who's just we've just got a small win, a great win of a 2 stone weight loss mark. Well done, Pamela. That's amazing. £2 off in a week is absolutely perfect. We love
Yeah.
that sort of amount. So well done. Really great to hear from you. Really makes us know we're talking to real people as well, which we really like. So today we're talking all about the sort of when you eat, the how you eat, the other side, the often missed aspect of food related to our how we eat, how we lose weight, how we are healthy. So we wanted to talk a little bit about this because there's so much emerging research and it is really important. So if you've ever noticed you're hungrier after a late night, Well, this is all about the circadian rhythm and why routines and how our life and how our body sort of really, really functions around the 24-hour clock. And it's really fascinating, isn't it? So if you are one of those people that notice you're hungrier after a late night or after a poor night's sleep, this is not surprising. There's really a good reason for this to happen. So we know that our circadian rhythm is our body's internal 24-hour clock. It responds to light and darkness and regulates our sleep, our hunger, our metabolism, and really how we feel throughout the day and the relationship between all of those aspects. If we eat at regular times, we help keep this internal clock in sync, which is really important. It's really important because actually, what the research is telling us is that this can really help to improve our insulin sensitivity and also help to support healthy weight loss. So, this is fascinating because it's nothing to do with what you're eating, it's all around the timing of that food. Insulin sensitivity is one of those key factors that we talk about on and off throughout the whole series of our webinars because it's such a vital part of healthy long-term weight loss, controlling inflammation in our bodies, helping to reset our metabolic health. So this is super duper really important. When we eat at regular times a day, it can really help our internal clock really get balanced. So we also know, interestingly, that insulin sensitivity tends to be higher earlier in the day. So if we're processing food during daylight hours rather than later in the evening, our body is going to find them easier to process and easier to maintain that insulin balance. Really interesting. Studies that have looked at whether we're eating earlier in the day shows that if we're having a more sort of a higher sort of more nutritionally complete breakfast, this can support our blood sugar control, our weight loss. So this is really interesting. So actually it's turning everything that generally in society we do on our heads because most people on a day-to-day basis are having toast or cereal for breakfast. They're tending to have their larger meal these days in the evening. And actually, in the evening, that is when we are less insulin sensitive. Now, we know realistically we can't all suddenly change how life is, but we do need to start thinking about okay, what can I do to support my eating and my weight loss in a way that actually is quite easy when we start changing that rhythm. And this is also really important for those who are in that maintenance of weight loss phase. So, actually, keeping regular meal times can really help to stop the drift in terms of drifting around what you're eating, what you're snacking, and also in terms of satiety. So, really important. So, regular sleep, regular wake times, and really eating in a pattern that supports that circadian rhythm can really help in terms of long-term weight loss and weight maintenance. This is fascinating. And I find it really interesting because so untalked about. Although, we are beginning to get more filter through, aren't we, Mandeep? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite important. And it brings us on to, kind of this eating window as well, regular kind of eating pattern.
Yeah. Do you want to take this or do you want me to talk
Yeah,
this through?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. So, Ruth has just been talking about obviously our body likes rhythm and routine. And one of the ways that we can support it is by something known as time restricted eating. You might have heard words such as like intermittent fasting, various kind of terminology, but and it's a way of supporting your rhythm. So it's not necessarily about eating less food, but it's about eating within a more consistent time window, if you like. And what we tend to find is that naturally this helps to reduce grazing, and it helps provide a more of a structured eating pattern as well for people without kind of having that need to count calories as well, which we want to move away from. So for example, a good place to start might be you might want to think about a 12-hour kind of an overnight fast. So for example, and I think Ruth, you use this phrase and I quite like it, almost thinking of it as like, after 7 p.m. the kitchen is shut. Like the fridge is shut and that is it. And from then onwards, if you need something, then drink your water, stay hydrated, absolutely. But then try not to eat then until the next day where, you may have your breakfast at 7 a.m. And then by doing this, you've already introduced a kind of a 12-hour fasting window. And then see how you get on because you might find in the morning at 7 a.m. I don't, I'm not hungry. I don't need a breakfast. So, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to rush to kind of eat straight away. You might find, oh, I can go another hour, I can go another couple of hours. And then naturally you will build up, you will increase your fasting window as well. And what tends to happen is, so then after around 12 to 14 hours, your body begins to deplete its glycogen stores and it will gradually move more towards switching to using the stored fat for fuel, which is essentially what we want. There's also research which suggests that this kind of time restricted eating helps to improve insulin sensitivity, and it also helps to regulate our appetite hormones, which we've discussed before, so ghrelin and leptin as well. And I guess in real life, one of the kind of the biggest benefits that people tend to tell us is that they tend to find that they're grazing less. They're also making fewer impulsive food choices, and they're becoming a lot more mindful as well about their eating as well. So I think 12-12 is a really good kind of simple pattern, that you could go. And yeah, it's just about finding a rhythm which works for you as well. And again, it's always about consistency. So that's something which we always encourage. We don't want perfection. It's about maintaining consistency. Um, so yeah, we've got a poll here now. So this is quite interesting. So if you just want to have a look, so what is your eating patterns? Over how many hours would you usually eat each day?
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong. It's just about getting some level of awareness, isn't it, Mandeep? So the first point for everyone is just to, okay, let's start thinking about this. There's no right or wrong. There's no one here criticizing you if you're over those 12 hours. We're all humans. We all have days when maybe we slack in the evening when we hadn't intended to, or we get invited out for a lovely meal and a social occasion, or we just feel too tired and we lose our focus. It happens to everyone. So really, it's just to bring that awareness to you about thinking, okay, is this something I can add in? Is this something I can work towards? And for those of you who are, there's quite a few of you, there's around 20% of people who are here today who are probably eating more than those 12 hours. That's absolutely fine. Maybe just think, okay, what could I do about this? If you're shift workers, it can be really difficult. But if you are in that sort of over 12-hour window, start thinking, okay, I can't just suddenly go from where I am now to 12 hours. That's going to make me feel rotten. But maybe I'll start easing it back in a little bit and actually seeing where I can get to over the next few weeks. Again, nothing needs to be done urgently, does it, Mandeep? It can just be an awareness to bring to you and almost like another gift, a layering in of something that can really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just a reminder, sort of like time restricted eating isn't suitable for everyone. So it's not something which we would be recommending for children or during pregnancy, or for anybody with a history of an eating disorder.
Yeah, it's a really, really important point. So it is really about you. It's about your journey. For some people, this won't be relevant at all. For some people, this might feel really frightening. Um, we are not here telling you what you have to do. We're just offering you some advice. So yeah, I can see there are some people, or say around 25% of people who are managing that sort of less than 10 hours a day, and others, quite a few who are doing between 10 and 12 hours. And I think that's great. And it's a really good to hear that you're doing so well. And we're all in different phases of our journeys, aren't we? So this is just about getting that awareness and understanding what's going on for yourself as much as anything else. There's no competition here at all. So we really want to think about that sort of flexible eating for real life as well. So let's think back. What does this really mean? So I guess what this means is that for some people, actually thinking and mapping the week can be a great way of thinking about how they want to eat and how they may just alter their food intake for different days. Now, one of the whole popular approaches to eating has become that 5-2 approach, where you have sort of reduced calories on 2 or 3 days a week, and then you have a normal calorie intake on the other days a week. If we're losing weight, you'd want to be thinking about what that calorie intake might look like. Otherwise, you might find by the end of the week there's no big shift in your weight. Not really, so But it's going to be really helpful for birthdays, parties, social events, or when you're having a day working, co-working with people, and it involves eating sociably with other people as well. And it can really just put some control back in your life. And also just gives you that sort of mental flexibility when we don't have to think, oh, I've blown it, the blown it feeling when things have gone wrong and you feel really bad about yourself. And what we know is when you have that, oh God, I failed, I'm useless, I've done it again, I'm going to have to restart on Monday, and it's only Tuesday, for example. It gets rid of all of that. It's just like, okay, I've got one of those flexible days when I've perhaps eaten more than I would have done, but hey, the next few days I can cut back. So it sort of like just turns the whole game around. It turns it into sort of like a weekly refocus to a whole life focus. And I think this is a really important step for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. Consistency over the week matters far more than perfection every day. So it's about actually flexibility is okay. We can do it consciously and we can do it unconsciously. And really, it's just about being kind to ourselves and making life work and not making being on a diet the whole focus of life. We want you to move away from that phrase of I'm being on a diet, I'm on a diet, I'm being good. Let's chuck all of those little phrases out and let's just sort of work out how this works for life because that's far more important. So I hope that makes sense. Any thoughts on that from you, Mandeep?
No, I really like this kind of method, and I'm definitely a fan of saying, not saying I'm on a diet because I find that's so restrictive.
Mm,
And actually, we've all got lives to live. There are special occasions, and I think it's nice to have this again, another kind of tool that we can kind of reach to. If you've had a celebration, it's okay. Like you said, Ruth, don't beat yourself up, but then just get back, the next couple of days get back on, track again and, refocus and be really mindful about your eating, rather than kind of being like, oh, I need to like wait until Monday and I've got to redo this. And I find that's quite a restrictive way of thinking as well.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
no,
put
I
so
find it,
much pressure on Mondays, which is often the busiest day of the week anyway. Just let's get
yeah.
rid of all that. Now, there's an interesting question I've just quickly seen in the chat box, so I want to pick up on that. So sorry for yeah, great. Thank you for asking these questions. Somebody's just asked, does this mean nothing but water? Somebody else has asked, does that mean we're only eating for 2 hours? No, absolutely neither of those. What this means is on 2 or 3 days a week, you could reduce your calories down to between I would say around 800 calories a day. The research says for some women, taking it down slightly lower than that can be helpful, but I would say 800 calories is a good place to start. So you do 2 or 3 days with 800 calories. This is called calorie cycling. The rest of the time, you would eat your normal calorie intake. So it's sort of just like a way of just bringing flexibility. Like you have a feast day, you're going out with friends, you're going to maybe overeat or have a little bit too much alcohol, whatever happens in your life, or the extra ice cream at the beach. Don't talk to me about that. And you can then just say, right, okay, let's wind this back in for a couple of days. Let's have a couple of days of 800 calories and get myself back on track. It's a very calm, very flexible, non-starvation approach. We certainly wouldn't advocate you only being on 600 to 800 calories every day because we know that actually our bodies will really find that a difficult approach to maintain long term. And what can happen in that situation is our metabolism can actually slow down. We can find it hard in the long run to maintain that weight loss. So you might see positive weight loss, but it wouldn't be maintainable. So this is all about finding mechanisms that not only help us to lose that weight in the first instance, but also makes it sustainable. And that's why we're here, because it's the sustainability that really matters as much as the weight loss. I hope that makes sense. Ask any questions. That's why we're here. Mandeep, anything you want to add to that, or should we move on?
No, yeah, that was really helpful, Ruth. So one of the other kind of things that we can, so we've looked at maximizing obviously our fasting window, but another thing that we can also look at is our digestion. Um, and I guess one of the simplest things that we can do to improve our digestion is to slow down. So chewing is the first stage of digestion, and the more thoroughly that you chew your food, the easier it is for the digestive system to break it down and absorb nutrients. So eating more slowly, it gives your brain time to kind of recognize and register what's happening, and also then helps to regulate our hunger hormones, so like leptin, and it helps to recognize when we're more full as well, and it also helps to balance hormones such as insulin as well. So building a balanced meal with protein, fiber, and healthy fats, this is going to help you stay fuller for longer as well, and then it should make it easier to avoid unnecessary snacking as well. And also, so maximizing the time between meals as well. So, where possible, try to leave around 4 to 5 hours between your meals as well. So, again, this is giving your digestive system that kind of time to reset, time to process the meal before eating again. And it also does help to reduce grazing throughout the day. One of the kind of top tips that we give as well in the webinars is to try and leave at least 2 to 3 hours between your evening meal and bedtime. Again, this helps to support better sleep. It's allowing more time for your body to digest that food. Some people, we do get some feedback and they say, I get really hungry like before bedtime, and I guess that's would be the time to maybe think about a protein-rich snack if that is the case. Rather than having a larger late night meal. And I guess for people who are in their weight maintenance phase, that's when mindful eating is becoming also more important as well. So really kind of paying attention to those hunger cues, stop eating when you feel full. It's going to help to prevent that kind of gradual creep of unconscious overeating over time as well. And also, I guess the other kind of tip to give is really recognizing when you are actually hungry, because not every craving that we feel is actual physical hunger. Sometimes this can be driven by emotions. It might be a habit. So I know when I'm in the office, for example, we tend to have like coffee breaks, and then with your coffee break, you want to have your biscuit. But actually, when I'm at home, I wouldn't be doing that, and I'm not hungry at that time, but it's a habit and it's a culture. So I think things like that in our environment can really drive some of those unnecessary kind of snacking that we don't need. And then over time, as we know, that accumulates into calories that we don't need. We do explore this in a lot more detail in one of our cravings webinar. So something to look out for.
Very much so. Yeah, we the cravings webinar is a really important webinar to come along to as well, but they all have their own purpose and place. Now, there was just something to pick up on in the chat box I didn't want to miss. So somebody is saying they couldn't imagine dropping down to 800 calories. And it might be that for you, I think it was a chap, sorry, I've missed the message now, but just wanted to pick up on it. I would say go to like 50% of what you would normally eat on that day and see how you get, or up to 60%. It is just about playing with these things and finding the rhythm that works for you. And if that just feels like something you don't want to consider right now, then maybe think about that, bringing it down to the sort of 14, the 12-hour window, depending on where you are. Again, it's all advice to be taken at the right time for you. And it isn't that we're saying do all of these things at once. We absolutely wouldn't advocate that. It would be awful. And we want to be really realistic in terms of what we're suggesting. So I think
Yeah.
you talked a little bit, didn't you, Mandeep, about slowing down, chewing well between your meals. And this is really important, but also just in terms of that chewing, we know that people who eat quickly are twice as likely to put on weight, to be overweight, or even obese. So actually, this is really important, slowing down. If that's the only thing that you could manage to do after today's webinar, that would be really important. And I noticed there was a comment in the chat box from somebody about being a fast eater and finding it really difficult to slow down. So if you're still here, this may be something to really be thinking about. Again, it's a new habit for many people. Um, I don't remember being taught to eat slowly. I can remember being taught to eat everything on my plate, and all of those rules around polite eating, but not necessarily the fast and the slow thinking. So I think one thing that used to be a trend back in the like early 1900s is a mechanism whereby people were advised to chew each mouthful something like 30 or more times. So that is something, if you have digestive problems, we would very much consider advocating you to slow down and chew. And I always say chew all of your food to like a baby food consistency. And even if it's soup, just make sure you're mixing that food in your mouth to get it mixing with your saliva and the digestive enzymes that you're producing to really digest that food. But from a sort of satiety point of view, it takes around 20 minutes after a meal is finished for us to actually get those satiety signals working. So we might find if we're a fast eater, we're not feeling that sense of feeling full up. And that can lead to us eating more than we really need. So slowing down, taking our time, maybe even starting, if you're a fast eater, starting with a starter like a small salad or a vegetable soup might just help with that satiety because this is what this is all about. It's helping you sort of support your appetite regulation and your food intake in a way that's completely different to what we've been talking about in other webinars. So again, this is really important. Slow down. If you're a fast eater, try that 20 chews per mouthful of food and really see how you get on. Really challenge yourselves to try this um, and find what happens when you're sitting with a group of friends or with your family. Who are those fast eaters? Are you the one that finishes first? Are you bolting your food down so quickly that you finish before anybody else has started? I've met plenty of people who win that race. So we're not people who eat fast aren't alone. And this isn't criticism, but this is about bringing awareness that actual our ability to feel full will take a little bit of time. If we're eating really quickly, we are missing the opportunity to help ourselves feel that sense of satisfaction that we can get from food if we slow down. It's a very simple message, really. Wouldn't you agree, Mandeep?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you want to then talk about the whole snacking? And we've got a poll for you as well about how to eat. So, okay, we're going to run this one. Okay, maybe we'll run this in a bit, actually. So let's just end. Can we end this right now and ask? No, let's just go with it. We'll keep it up for a while. You talk, Mandeep, and we'll leave the poll running in the background. How about that?
Yeah, okay, no problem. So, yeah, so another kind of hack is, to reduce snacking because we tend to snack, out of habit. So it's, we could be bored or it could just simply be because there's food is available. And I guess the best way to reduce unplanned snacking, it's not just through willpower, but it's about building meals that keep you satisfied as well. So if we're aiming to include the protein, fiber and healthy fats at each meal, then these will help to keep us fuller for longer. It also provides more sustained energy and then it reduces that urge to eat between meals. So kind of think of like if you think back to the hunger scale, and ideally your meals should be keeping you comfortably satisfied for around 3 to 4 hours. So if you're finding that you're hungry again much sooner, it might be a sign that you need to, balance your meals a little bit more. So you might need to add a bit more protein in, for example. Um, and then, you may want to, if you know that you actually do like to snack or you prefer a snack, then having a planned snack as well. And then genuinely like kind of looking at, I'm hungry now, so I'm going to go for my boiled eggs or a Greek yogurt or, a small handful of nuts, for example. Really kind of recognizing those hunger signals. The other one, my kind of little hack is just drinking plenty of water as well. So kind of when you're feeling hungry, I'd be reaching for water first to get hydrated. And for some people as well, drinking a glass of water before a meal as well also helps to keep them fuller for longer. And I find that is a bit of a hack as well. So yeah, so for many people, building more satisfying meals does naturally reduce to less snacking, helps to prevent that kind of gradual calorie creep, which is, what makes weight loss and maintenance much more difficult. And if you are in the maintenance phase as well, again, you don't need to be restrictive, but it's about being deliberate. So really planning those snacks as part of your structure as well. So yeah, anything to add there, Ruth? Any other tips? Oh, I can't hear you, Ruth.
Oh, I love it. Sorry, I turned my microphone off just because I was having some water. Okay, no, nothing to add. I think that covers it. We've got loads of comments and questions, and it's really helpful to see what's going on in the chat box. So thank you. And yeah, sorry, we launched the poll early. We're going to relaunch it in a minute. So don't worry. And thanks to Raman. It's no drama at all. Um, People are saying they're trying to keep the same meal times. I love that. How about a protein starter, e.g., avocado? So avocado is more like a healthy fat, but you could have that if you felt it was satisfying. And healthy fats are really good for satiety as well. So yeah, I would do anything, or maybe just even a few nuts, or a little side salad to bring that fiber in. Fiber can really help in terms of fullness. So I know we talk a lot about protein, but we should never forget how important fiber is too. And for some reason, we still have a whole load of people in our world who really don't love eating vegetables. So that's definitely something to think about. So let's talk a bit about drinks because I think they're the often forgotten aspect. So don't forget that drinks count as well. Calories from drinks are often overlooked and easy not to consider. So we would always advocate drinking water first and foremost. And interestingly, there's some really interesting research that suggests that if we drink one or two glasses, like you were saying, Mandeep,
Mm.
before a meal, that can really help to blunt our appetite. So if you have, if you're really struggling with calming your appetite down, this might be something to think about for you. We also know that those sugar sweetened drinks can really make a difference to not necessarily the calorie intake, but also artificially sweetened drinks, which contain little or no calories, have got that sweet taste. So our whole physiology is going to react to those drinks differently to how we imagine. So they're sold as sort of dieting support, dieting help, but actually, what we know is that actually it appears that actually it may have an impact on our insulin sensitivity. So we want to really steer away from those as much as possible. Maybe thinking about switching to fizzy water if you enjoy drinking a fizzy drink. We also know alcohol can make weight management really challenging. Your body will prioritize breaking down the alcohol. So our liver will work on metabolizing that alcohol rather than in terms of breaking down fat. So if we're regularly drinking alcohol, if people are regularly drinking alcohol, it can have quite an impact on their ability to lose weight. So if that's relevant to you, then it may be really worth thinking about, okay, maybe like all of the things we've talked about today, is there a place to be thinking, do I just do this a couple of times a week? If you're drinking every day, can you take it down by one occasion a week? And then once you've achieved that, can you take it down by two occasions a week? Also, for those of you who are taking a weight loss medication, there is really a lot of research that suggests that the medication doesn't fare that well alongside alcohol. So it's a bit of a contraindication. So we would say really, really think about that in terms of your liver health and your kidney health and really what you can do to support your health. We want this to be a health journey as much as anything else. So I would say, the research around how much water each of us should drink is a little bit more nuanced. Um, but we do really advocate that you want to be thinking about using your urine as a barometer for how much you drink. So actually going for that pale straw color as sort of like what your urine looks like, even when you wake up in the morning, can be really helpful for knowing if you're well hydrated. So you start thinking about whether that's something you could do. Anything you want to add there, Mandeep?
No, I absolutely agree. I think I quite like the hack of drinking water before a meal. I think that definitely helps to kind of like support weight management as well.
Yeah.
And then I guess just looking at yeah, like the kind of diet drinks and things like that because there are the hidden sugars and the hidden calories and they can really creep up quite quickly as well. So definitely having a look at your drinks
Yeah.
is important.
And a quick final word about those of you who are in maintenance. Really start thinking about, okay, what is success here now? Okay, we want you to move away from the scales. So, are you wanting to be thinking about those non-scale wins? Is your energy good? Are you feeling more confident? Do you like how you look and feel in your clothes? And what is going on for you that isn't about jumping on and off the scales every day? For those of you who are early in maintenance, actually having the scales around can help you feel a sense of control. But we want you to really start thinking about where this new lifestyle begins. So, really think about building those balanced meals, keeping sleep management techniques in place, keeping your stress management in place, and also keeping active. Those are the habits that are going to keep you in terms of your maintenance sort of goal on track. But this is again isn't about being perfect. It's about, some of the hacks we've talked about today. Actually, bringing those in may just be the thing that helps that maintenance work really easily or more easily for you. So we're going to quickly share that final poll again, I think. So this one here. There we go. I'm going to relaunch the poll. I know some of you started it. Sorry about that. I'm just going to restart it now and let you know where we're at over the next few weeks. This is what's happening. So, just a final reminder of what we're thinking about: eating those 2 or 3 balanced meals a day, thinking about timing between your meals, having gaps between your meals for digestion and for insulin sensitivity and for everything to work effectively, slowing down how quickly you eat, thinking about your drinks as well as the food, and really just one thing you could practice this week. This isn't about doing everything. This is never about perfection. It's about consistency, isn't it, Mandeep?
Yeah.
We're not trying to turn everybody into perfect people who are just so overwhelmed with having to do everything right. It becomes too much to consider. So let's have a look. What's going on in the poll here? Lots of people are going to go for eating within that defined window. That's probably one of the key answers. Oh, and the winner so far is chewing their food more. We love that. If you will start becoming chewers, I want to hear from you next week how that makes you feel, how your digestion is, how your hunger is, whether you noticed that you stay satisfied for longer. It'd be really good to hear from you what's made a difference. And if you're going to go for a more defined eating window, then really let us know how that goes. This isn't about doing what everybody else does, it's about choosing your window for you. So, really think about it. And for some people are going to track how often they're eating, and reducing snacking is up there. So, well done. Lots of positive things that we're going to be thinking about. So, thank you for sharing that. Just to let you know, when we're here over the next few weeks, we're here every week now. We just had to miss last week just because staff was so short. And we're going to be here next week and we're going to be thinking about mindset, really important, and then all through September. So do join us. And Raman, if you could share the sign up link. And I stop sharing the slides now, and we are going to come to your questions, I believe. So let's have a look.
So first, how do we catch up with the live sessions? So they are on our YouTube. We'll provide a link for that. Is that right, Ruth? Will we send a link out?
Yeah, we have got a link and we have a YouTube um, account. So they are on a YouTube account. So you'll get the link. You should be able to find all of the previous sessions on there. I'm going to just order these in terms of upvotes. So we'll go for the questions at the top of the upvoting, the ones which have had the most thumbs up and likes, so that we can make sure we answer those because they'll um, hopefully be beneficial to you. So somebody's saying, say Raman, if you want to do that on yours as well, you just go to the side of the Q&A box and you swap from most recent to most upvotes. Don't know if you can see that. Don't worry if you can't. So somebody's saying they're really struggling with energy levels. Is there anything I can take or do? Okay, it'd be really helpful to know a little bit more about your energy. I would say follow the GLP-1 eating plan. Make sure you're nailing your protein and your fiber and your healthy fats within every meal. So if we can share the GLP-1 meal builder and also the protein and foods resource, Raman, even if we've shared them, please share them again. Start there. Look at your sleep habits, look at what's going on with your stress. If you start nailing your food around that GLP-1 builder, then that should really help to bring a level of insulin sensitivity, which should help with energy. And if you're doing that consistently and you're still struggling with your energy and you're a Boots Online Doctor patient, please email us in and give you a more nuanced, personalized answer and try and dig in and find out what's going on for you. We absolutely want to support you on your journey. So this is why we're here. So please do use us as much as we can to support you. Question here, is there a way of measuring your insulin sensitivity? Yes, there is. Mandeep, you aware? I know that you can do a blood test where you look at your insulin sensitivity. Generally not, unfortunately, available from your GP at the moment. So it would have to be a private blood test. There are a couple of providers who will do that. But again, the problem being that your GP might not be familiar with those tests and may not be happy with those. It is something I think that we're looking at as a team as to whether this is something that may come in the future through the Boots website. But again, it's in discussion phase only at the moment. So nothing to share with you on that. Mandeep, any updates or anything you would want to share with that?
No, is this like, would this be like CGM monitoring? Would that
No,
be like,
I mean, CGM monitoring, so continued glucose monitoring, is a really interesting way of monitoring your blood glucose. And that is
mm,
something that a lot of people who are on a weight loss mission find really helpful to add in. So it's where you wear a little monitor and you can link it up to your phone so you can see what your blood glucose is doing in relation to food. Insulin testing is actually looking at your blood insulin level, so knowing whether you are insulin resistant or insulin sensitive. So it is another health parameter that sits more in terms of health. And unfortunately, we're not offering that yet in the NHS, sadly. But I think we should be. But that's because I think we should be, just because I do. We'll move on because we can't help you more. But yes, there will be tests out there, but it may not be something your GP would be familiar with.
yeah, someone's asking about traveling with their Wegovy pen. Yeah, so if you're a Boots Online doctor patient, please send us a message and we can give you some specific advice on how to travel safely with your pen. And we can provide a travel letter if you need to. If you're not with Boots Online Doctor, then get in touch with your healthcare provider because they will be able to give you some specific advice. So it is possible, but you will just need some information about that.
Yeah, and the same applies to somebody who's asking about Manjaro. It's
But yeah.
exactly the same. So brilliant. Thanks, Amandeep. Are you allowed teas and coffees if you're fasting? Yes, absolutely. But you would want to have them black. You can also add in a healthy fat called medium chain triglyceride. So you could add in a little bit of coconut oil, which is an MCT, a medium chain triglyceride. There are also people who are selling those, and then you would maintain your fast. And you can whisk it up almost like it's almost like drinking a frothy cappuccino or something, but without the effect on your blood sugar. So yeah, absolutely. Great. Somebody's been on their way. I'll read this for you, Mandeep. Been on the journey for 18 months and have done really well overall, but have reduced my days. Finding old habits are creeping in, so any tips to manage that would be great. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So, yeah, and again, if you're on maintenance and you've reduced your dose, then naturally you may find that some of your hormones are kind of increasing again. But it's really about, going back to the good habits that you'd created. And again, it's about having a plan. And we've talked about this. So, meal planning, for example, it might be that, you want to take 10 minutes at the start of a week, just to make sure that you're planning out your meals. That will help to naturally reduce snacking and grazing as well throughout the week. So, make sure that you're getting really good sleep, getting some activity, so physical activity in as well. So all of those kind of like really going back to the basics, when you started your journey and all those good habits that you've built in. And if you are really struggling, then again, it might be have a conversation with your healthcare provider, and you may just need to increase the dose if you're still on treatment as well. So that might be something to consider. And that's okay as well to stay on a dose that suits you for longer. We know that supports weight loss maintenance as well long term.
Yeah, and I'd say just really make sure you're nailing that protein. Make sure you're not eating too many ultra processed foods. Maybe they've crept in, or the higher sugar foods, because they are likely to trigger off increased appetites and cravings and hunger. So just really, really just have a good look. Maybe fill in Raman, if you could share the food and symptom diary, maybe fill one of those in for a few days and just see if there's anything that's triggering off extra hunger, or whether you're actually managing to eat enough and whether you're keeping well hydrated as well. It can make such a subtle difference. And also, we know it's really interesting, but the psychology is when we have hit that maintenance, we actually do tend to stop tracking quite as much as we perhaps did during that weight loss journey. So, this isn't about criticism. This is just about owning being a human being, I'd say. So, it's just about actually just bringing yourself back to some level of awareness again and just really just making sure you're nailing all of those things, like you were saying, get those habits back in place. It can really help. Um, great, thank you. So let's see, where are we at? Do we have to eat 3 meals a day? Some days I just want to eat twice. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure you're eating enough. I
Yeah.
think that's the message is just make sure you're eating enough. If it's 2 meals a day and they're two substantial meals, then you're nailing, enough calories to actually be supporting a healthy body composition and you're eating the right foods in those meals, that can be perfect and it can work really well for you. See how you go.
So somebody's taking Wegovy, they've noticed that their appetite has dropped right off. But my mind gets to meal times and says, you need to eat, although not hungry. Should I wait until I'm hungry rather than eating through habit? So it is still important that you do eat kind of, regularly and you eat enough when you're on treatment, because otherwise then there is that risk of becoming like fatigued and lethargic, and not having enough energy. So I think it is important that you kind of find that right balance. So if you're finding that you're going throughout the day and you're not wanting to eat, then yeah, having like, smaller, lighter food meals is definitely a good idea to sustain your energy levels and just make sure that you're staying really hydrated as well, because to minimize the risk of dehydration. Again, if you're a Boots Online doctor patient, if you get in touch with us, we can give you a bit more bespoke information around your dosing as well. And if you're not in touch, if you're not with us, then do get in touch with your healthcare provider, and they'll be able to guide you a little bit further with regards to your dosing as well.
Okay, brilliant. And also, I was just thinking about something around that. But I think that's fine, isn't it? I think that covers it. Great. Let's move on. Somebody's asking about the cyclospora outbreak in the US and whether we need to be concerned. In the UK, I would just make sure you wash your lettuce. You can wash them in cider vinegar, and that will just help to get rid of any resident problems. But I don't believe it is a huge problem at the moment in the UK. We haven't seen any warnings about that so far. So, not that I'm aware of. I will check and come back to you next week, though. Um, okay, moving up doses. Let's make this more general. Let's not just make it about somebody's asking about moving up doses and whether they should or whether they shouldn't. Mandy.
Yeah, so I get asked this obviously every day. So my advice is if the dose is working for you, stick with it. There's absolutely no reason why,
No.
you need to ramp up through the doses. We are finding that people who stay lower for longer, that's helping them fantastic, minimizes the risk of side effects as well. When I do tell people to increase is if you're finding your appetite's increasing, a few days before your next dose is due, and that's usually a really good indicator that now might be a good time to increase my dose. But if it's working well for you, then stick with it.
Okay, somebody's asking if a slimming world approach to eating works well when taking Manjaro. I would say, in part, yes. I think they have a lot of foods that are their free foods. So they tend to be their sort of healthy foods that you will see on the GLP-1 meal builder. So use that as your sort of like focus, I would say. The problem with their free foods is they're almost like you're able to eat all of the time and huge quantities of all of those foods all the time. And that's not realistic, really, for long-term weight maintenance. You also then have a points allowance for the sort of like foods that are more of those ultra processed foods, the sort of higher sugar foods. So again, we would say have those as an occasional treat, not a daily allowance. So again, it's mindset. So I think in a way, yes, but in a way, I don't think it's setting up with the right mindset, if I'm really honest. Nothing against that particular program. It works brilliantly for some people, but we're here for the long term weight loss and maintenance. We want you to get a sense of balance that's going to last you for good. I hope that helps. It's a really interesting question. So thanks for asking.
Another one, I'm on weight loss tablets and eat a small piece of cheese before bed to add protein and stop nausea first thing. Is that okay? Yeah, that's if that works for you. There's no reason, I can't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, definitely. If it's working. I wouldn't try and fix it. If it's your answer, then absolutely really perfect. Somebody's asking what
Yeah.
they can take for nausea, and we recommend making sure you're chewing your food, drinking plenty of water between your meals. If the nausea is really difficult, write into your provider. So whether that's ourselves as a Boots Online doctor or a different provider, please write in and get some advice from them. And really, they would want to know that you're suffering with a difficult to manage side effect. How do you manage eating around shift work? I've really looked at that, and
Mm.
the recommendation, Mandy, let's have a chat. I'll say what I've heard, and you can join in if you like. So, what I've read and what I believe to be correct is you try and maintain the sort of balance across the day, very much around your shift work as well. So maybe have your larger meal in the evening before you go on a night shift, and then try and fast and maybe have a break at 4 in the morning. So you could maybe need something. I've done night shifts and I know how awful I feel when I do night shifts. So you completely, I sympathize. Or, working long 12-hour shifts, it can be really difficult. I think just try and maintain some consistency. So, whatever you do on a day off, try and follow that same pattern on your working days as well. Sounds really easy in theory. We don't want you suddenly eating on loads more occasions. We just want you to try and get that consistency. And so maybe, just try and plan how that might look across a week for you. It might be that you need a smaller meal before you start work because actually you don't want to go into work feeling uncomfortably heavy or like you've eaten a large meal. So just plan. You might want your larger meal in the middle of the night to keep you going. Let's see, to see what works for you. It is tricky as anything. We know it.
I think
Mandy.
routine. No, I agree with. I think routine is important, and meal planning as well as much as you can.
Yeah.
And again, it will also be affected by like the type of shift work. So for some people, they might just stay on the same shift all week and then swap shift the following week. So they might go from days to nights. For some people, it might be a little bit quicker. So they might be going from a days to nights over a couple of days and then onto like an afternoon shift. And it is really tricky. I know there's quite a lot of research about the impact of shift work on, food
On that
and
whole circadian rhythm as well, which we were
yeah,
talking way back at the start. So we know it's difficult, but yeah, just try and keep that rhythm, I would say. Somebody's asking what calories they should have. They're 5'2". We have got something called a BMR calculator, which is a link to calculating calorie intake. This can be your calorie intake is going to be affected not only by your height, but your age, your life stage, your body composition. So, if you're more muscular or you have a higher fat percentage, all of those things will make a difference. So, it isn't just about your height. So, it is a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more complicated. So, I always say use those BMR calculators as an indicator. I will share the information, and then to lose weight, you would want to take off approximately 500 calories a day, but you need to add in your activity before you do the deduction. But again, it's very crude. I would say it doesn't work for everyone. So it's sort of like a guideline rather than a specific. So sort of work out what it would be, see how that works for you. Don't forget when you've lost half a stone or a stone to recalculate that. And, if you're really struggling to figure out what's going on for you there, then, again, write into your provider. We want to support you. Yeah, I hope that helps. Do you agree, Mandeep?
yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm not a really big fan of counting calories, but I think leaning more towards like a Mediterranean style of eating, I find that much easier to stick to.
Yeah,
Always kind of like whole foods, really kind of minimizing the ultra processed foods as well. And I think naturally then you do tend to just eat better, rather than kind of like really counting how many calories
yeah.
are in this now. So kind of looking at the type of food you're eating, I find that more beneficial.
Yeah, and actually, all of the research says in the long term, learning the foods that love you back and learning to love those is the way to do it because they become your core sort of way of eating that's going to set you up for life. In terms of the fasting, the intermittent fasting approach, the two 800 calorie days, can they be connected or can they separated by a normal day? It really is about finding a rhythm that works for you. There's no absolute right or wrong around that. So some people love doing 2 days in a row because it just nails it. It's in the bag. Other people like to separate it out. So try both ways and see which way you prefer. Okay. Somebody's saying they've got a wedding coming up, how to manage. That's a great question. Special occasions. How do you manage special occasions, Mandy?
So I'd be like, enjoy the wedding. Enjoy the wedding, but just leading, the days, again, it comes back to planning the week, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we don't need perfection every day, but leading up to the days leading up to the wedding, you might be plan your meals, be more mindful, really kind of looking at what you're eating. And again, the day go and enjoy the wedding, have a good time. And then the days following the wedding, you get back to your kind of normal routine plan again. So it's not about being restrictive. We wouldn't be saying go to the wedding and don't eat or, don't enjoy yourself because that's not realistic. So enjoy the wedding, but just be really mindful about the days leading up and the days after so that your week is still consistent and on track.
Yeah, just get that balance. Everything we've talked about today is finding that balance. So if you've got special occasions, balance the week. Just really, really think through, okay, it's not a disaster. I want to go. I want to have fun. I want to join in with everyone else. I don't want to be the person who sits there and doesn't have a glass of champagne or whatever it is. You want to just go and like if there's dancing, get out there and do some dancing, really help yourself and also drink water in between alcohol really helps. Yeah, I agree. Have fun. It's really important to have those moments of fun in life. Great. Now I'm going to whiz down and see what's going on at the bottom of these questions. So we've given you the link to the BMR calculator. Does dry lips mean dehydration? Interesting question. What do you think? I don't think it necessarily does. It may be you can have dry lips because it's dry environmentally. It could be that you've got air conditioning on. There are all sorts of reasons for dry lips. So if you think you might dehydrate it, check what colour your urine is. Go for that pale straw colour. If it's really dark, don't suddenly drink hundreds and hundreds of litres of water. Just gradually eke it up over the course of a few days. But I think right now we're living in a very hot climate. There's lots of fans, air conditioning. That may be the factor. Great. Anything else that everybody wants an answer to? Got lots of individual people not feeling hungry on the Wegovy pills. Mandeep, I've noticed that as well with some of the questions that we're answering on the patient messaging system.
Yeah, so I think if you've just started a treatment and you're struggling, if your Boots Online doctor messages in, we can give you a more bespoke answer. It might be that you need to reduce your dose. We still recommend that you try and eat throughout the day to maintain those energy levels. So I think if you're struggling, I do encourage you to speak to your healthcare provider for some more bespoke advice.
Yeah, and somebody else is actually echoing that and saying they're not really eating enough to sustain their energy levels. So it may be that if you're taking medication, you need to drop the dose. We really want you to eat enough. I think, it's great to be losing weight. That's fantastic. We know that's what people want to see, but we want that to be a healthy journey. So if you are on a higher dose of any of the weight loss medications, really worth talking to somebody about reducing. If you're really, really struggling to incorporate resistance exercise, which we know is so important for muscle mass, which is so important for maintenance and healthy weight loss, um, yeah, you need to be eating. So you could be thinking about protein powders added into your meals as a supplement. We don't want that to be your food. So it needs to be supplementary, like all of those other supplements that you might want to consider. Not that we're advocating those. So really start off with the bare minimum. Start with your food. See what's going on. If you're really struggling, as Mandeep has said a few times, and as we've said, write into your provider. That is not what we want to hear. Um, Somebody says they're drinking water, it takes nausea away. Brilliant. Thank you for letting us know that. And that's what we believe to be true as well.
Yeah, and if you're fasting, you can still drink water. I think somebody's asking, does this mean I can't drink any liquids? No, water is absolutely fine. Tea and coffee without milk, herbal teas, absolutely fine as well.
Yeah. It is just a few questions around the struggling to eat. So please message in if you're with us. We really want to give you some one-to-one advice, I think. Somebody who's a type 2 diabetic and Manjaro really struggling to eat, that isn't the effect we want. And you're on a sort of mid-range dose, so there is perhaps space to think about reducing that dose and seeing if that would help with the eating side of it. So really, really think about that. Um,
This is a really good one, actually, just quickly. So, yeah, if you're on treatment, we do still recommend that you eat small and often. So, yeah, you're right. The 16/8 fasting. So, having an eating window of 16 hours and fasting for 8 would could work really well. The GLP-1.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for speaking up. That is great. I think we're now at the end of today's webinar. So carbonated water better than normal. Some people who are on weight loss medications find it makes their digestive system even less comfortable. Some people find it's fine. I love a little bit of carbonated water. It's personal. See how it affects you. We are unable to answer any more questions. I think we've got through the gist of them. So thank you so much for all of that. And thank you so much for your time today. We've loved having you here. Thank you for the support for one another as well. I think that's as important as us being here anyway. And thank you so much to Mandeep and to Raman for all of the support. We have shared a feedback link. We are always interested in feedback, whether it's good or whether there's room for improvement. We're always really happy to hear. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Have a good week.
Bye.